Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Kim with K Montes Art Studio, and we have our first sketchbook tour. I absolutely loved this sketchbook. This is my first sketchbook I've ever completed from start to finish. Yes, I've been painting for 10 years and I've never completed a sketchbook. So I was super motivated by this one because there were only a couple of pages, and I say that lightly because most of my sketchbooks tend to have a lot of sheets. So this sketchbook is the Hahnemuhle watercolor book 5 or A5 200 GSM, and it only had 30 sheets, 60 pages total front and back. So it felt so manageable for me, and I really enjoyed it. So to start off, I broke the barrier with color swatches. So the first couple pages are color swatches, and I started this book August 2022, and I finished in October 2023. So this very first sketch here is one of experimenting with the different watercolors that I had and neocolors, moving into these landscapes that were primarily done with neocolor 2s. I really enjoyed the neocolor 2s, so I was super obsessed and just created a bunch of imaginary landscapes. Some of these you'll see that I reference a few types of photos. Moving into my keys. So this day I had jury duty and I brought my sketchbook with me and I just wanted to sketch. I didn't know what to sketch. I also was very frazzled by my case. Very interesting case. And I also fell in love with the Reading Terminal in Philadelphia and all the desserts that they had. So I did a really rough sketch and I just enjoyed it. Then I developed more sketches out of the Reading Terminal and loved creating this little illustration, playing around with watercolor, pen, and pencil. This one is primarily done with neocolors, and this following sheet is also neocolors. I love this image on the left. It was captured from Google. I just researched landscape with mountains, I think. This was actually one of my very first images that went viral along with the other donuts. So when I was really into creating Instagram reels, those 3 food paintings went viral. Super weird, but it did. Here we have a door. I really love painting doors, and I used graphite for those. And this was just a fun little sketch with watercolor. Practicing trees was important for me, especially working in landscapes. So I worked on these little trees and tried to observe the color. I was very into my watercolor in this earlier start of this sketchbook. So most of the things are water-based materials in this book. And you'll see how I gradually grow into gouache. Here are some more studies. I was practicing perspective and mountains and houses. And this image here, I did 3 of them actually, inspired from the Plein Air magazine. Moving into these floral practices, I was starting to get into the exploration of color and breaking free from a traditional view of a flower. And it's interesting to me how I've developed from having typical views of imagery and moving into more color. So here we have some figures. I originally started off as a figure painter, and I love painting figures, bodies in motion, bodies that show image, feeling, any sort of position. It's so interesting to me how our bodies move, and I kept the color consistency in that spread. So here we have these Art Conti sticks that I loved, and they're water soluble graphite in color, so I only was limited to the red, the yellow, and the blue, and I love working with those because they're sort of fun and smooth. I've been playing around with this idea of creating images with the same colors on each spread, so during this moment I continued over with the same color palette and just changed the imagery. Again, with the same color palette, just changing the imagery. Here is a combination of neo pastel, and I think this sheet I overused certain things like the water, and experimenting is what I love to do. This was just a little doodle of rain, probably indicating how I felt that day. I'm not exactly sure where I was going with that. And again, playing with those Conti sticks in the red, the blue, and the yellow. So here I wanted to play around with warm and cool and just observe the different ways of combining color. I absolutely love painting plein air and landscapes and trees and grass. It seems like such a simple concept, but there's so many colors that come within those views. So diving into this pumpkin, this was actually last fall, and I was still working through some of the real Instagram video things, and I kind of threw in the towel on forcing myself to create these videos for the sake of views. So here we have an image that was made with Crayola crayons. And this one is another experiment with the Neo color. So I left this book alone for months after that camping view, and these were from this year. That first to the left is from my view in an airplane, and the other one is from Puerto Rico. These are also from sight. I went to the beach on the left, and that's a little lake that's next to the beach I went to, and this is a coffee shop that is very close to home. Here are some more on-site references. So I loved playing with this perspective of gradual view from the bottom. This was another fun image that this is actually a cat veterinarian spot, so that one was fun. Also playing around with my Noodler's ink and my Noodler's pen. So learning how to maneuver through a fountain pen is interesting. So this image here is one from on site as well, combined with watercolor and the ink. Here we have an entire page with Noodler's ink on image from Puerto Rico from my summer vacation, and this is just doodles. I was really enjoying the way the pen flowed and released the ink. Here we have me really pushing color. I really started to push color this year and experiment with different colors that you can see in landscapes. And I have been so in love with the idea that sky can be green, mountains can be blue, and grass can be purple. You know, you can really push this idea of having so many colors in your landscapes and your views. I tried to combine here my figures and my landscapes. So this is actually from life. The person that I was observing did have clothes, but sometimes it becomes challenging to draw the clothes. Again, pushing the color barrier with landscapes and exploring the depth of the view. So I hope to eventually make these into larger paintings. This is a full spread, my first full spread. I really enjoyed stretching those colors again. You know, mountains aren't typically pink. They're not typically red. Unless if the sun is setting, you can see a reflection of those colors. But I definitely suggest if you're stuck and you're working on a sketchbook, push the color barrier, make things interesting. Here I started to play around with a night sky and a day sky and thinking about how those colors change at sunset versus sunrise. And again, pushing the boundaries of what I can imagine those mountains to be like. So I paint a lot of mountains and I paint a lot of valleys, but I live in the city and I don't see any of these things. These are all imaginary for the most part. It's been a lot of fun trying to take my mind to a place that I physically cannot go to. Yeah, there are a lot of trees in certain areas of Philadelphia, but sometimes it's fun to just go on an adventure in your paintings. So here I explored a lot with the gouache in these past couple paintings, and that reflective gouache was so much fun. So we're on our last page, and this was from reference, and I realized how limiting it was to me. And that's my gouache palette. So I hope you enjoyed this sketchbook tour. I'll do a little flip through at the very end. And here are my gouache palettes. They're Transcend Holbein gouache. And I hope you enjoy this sketchbook tour. So enjoy the overview.